Today's video, we're going to be looking at our 2 megabytes of L2 cache Socket 7 mystery PC.
We review old technology from games to old PCs, and don't forget the toys. Don't get Asian electronics. We cover it all.
Alright, so hopefully this is going to be kind of a light, easy build sort of video here. I'm not really going for any, well, at least at this point, I'm not going for any kind of like specific build or era build or build around anything. I just want to take a look at this machine and maybe turn it into something pretty cool. So this is a mystery machine, as in I picked this up at a swap meet a few months ago. I took a peek inside. I kind of remember mostly what's in there and the motherboard and stuff, but I haven't done anything to it. This is how I got it. I've done nothing to it, and I thought it was interesting enough just to do a general video about it. So of course, in the intro, this motherboard in here has 2 megabytes of L2 cache. It's a little bit of an oddity. It's a little bit of a rarity in the realm of like Socket 7 board, Super Socket 7. We'll talk about that in a minute. In the past, I've only had one other motherboard, Super Socket 7 motherboard, that had 2 megabytes of L2 cache, and that was FIC board PA203 or 2011, I don't remember. But that board served me diligently for years. It currently won't run at a front-side bus over like 75 megahertz, so age is catching up with that board. So we'll see how this board does. It has the 2 megabytes of L2 cache. Pretty standard looking sort of Windows 98-ish era case here. We have the 1.44 megabyte floppy drive. Interestingly, no CD drive, which is pretty interesting. We have a hard drive like caddy bay here with, I can tell there's no hard drive in there. I'm probably going to, I don't know if I'm going to keep this or not. And then we have a tape. I think this is a tape drive, 250 megabyte. It's cool, it's retro, but I don't personally have a use for it, so this is probably going to be removed as well. Alright. Could have done that in one turn, I suppose. Alright, the other interesting thing about this PC is it's AT. I was pretty surprised when I opened this thing up and I seen what motherboard's in there, and it's Super Socket 7, 2 megabytes of L2 cache, and it's an AT motherboard. That is kind of unusual. I mean, most boards that advanced that have like large amounts of L2 cache and they're like Super Socket 7 with AGP, they're usually ATX boards, and they'll have like PS2 ports for keyboard and mouse. But no, this one's AT. Pretty unusual. I don't run into that too much. I even know there's some AT form factor like Pentium 2 boards out there as well, which I don't know. I just think that's kind of weird. It's a little uncommon. So yeah, that was weird. When I saw that, I thought this was going to be like an older machine, but it's not. You could see whoever the previous user was has it all like decked out with stuff, and then we even have a little card here with a PS2 connector for mouse, which is nice. But alright, well, I guess let's open it up. Alright, and I see this little sticker on the inside here. USB ports will not work under Windows 98 SE with AMD CPU and via USB host controller. That's good to know. Alright, so taking this off, we can also see the form factor. Not only is it AT, but it's like baby AT. So it is a smaller form factor motherboard. And this is I believe it's DFI, and the motherboard is right there. K6B V3 Plus 66 Rev B2. I think Phil from Phil's Computer Lab did a review on a motherboard similar to this. It was like the full ATX form factor one, and it had PS2 slots. Yeah, it was ATX. So I think this board is more or less like the AT version of that board, and it's also smaller. So this board has the L2 cache, which is 2 megabytes on it. There were other versions of this board. I think they had like 1 megabyte and 512, but this is the full 2 megabyte version, which is interesting. And I even believe, I looked at the chips, they're somewhere. Well, there's a mess of wires, but I actually think the L2 cache chips in this are faster than the ones in my FIC board, which is nice. So it might have less issues running a K63 Plus at higher clock speeds. So that's interesting. I don't remember what CPU is in here right now. It's whatever the last user had in there. There's a hard drive. But I don't recall what speed it is. But I am heavily considering just putting in, I have another, I mean, I already have a build right here. Is this it? Yes, this is my K63 Plus build with a Voodoo 3 in there. So I really like this machine. I already have a Windows 98 K63 build, but I still might throw a K63 Plus in here just because. So various cards in here, a lot like a USB controller, Ethernet, modem. I'm probably going to pull those cards. I have absolutely no use for them. But there is a video and sound card, so let's just pull those right now just to see what the previous user had in here. I've also just noticed, so I think that's a Goodwill sticker on the power supply. So I did not put this power supply in there. That is the previous user. So also nice case speaker here. Fan again. There's a hard drive here. It looks like Max Tor. I don't really see the size from here. So anyways, let's look at these cards. Alright, so taking a look, nothing exciting in here as far as video and sound. It's apparent whoever was using this prior, gaming was not their priority. We have a I think this is like an PCI, what did they call it? I think this is one of like the Creative branded like PCI audio cards, who with like Ensoniq, I think previously made these cards, and then Creative took over. I think this is one of the Creative branded one of those. Not great sound cards at all. I don't like them. Very kind of basic sound. I've even had like sound issues with them. They're slow. I don't like these cards. If this is what I think it is, just the Creative branded version. I hear they have decent compatibility with DOS, but I've never had much love for these cards. So just basic sound, basically. And then we have a TNT2 of some sort. So yeah, AGP TNT2. I think this might even be like the newer one that they rebranded, and oh, I forget. Anyways, I mean this is okay, I suppose, for Windows 98, something like that. But I don't know if this would be like it's a gaming monster card. So yeah, it's acceptable, but you know, it's not like an Ultra or something like that. So yeah, not super gaming oriented here. Okay, so we have a CMOS battery there. We have a VIA chipset. There's the RAM. There's the RAM. Looks like 3. I believe this board could take like 760 some megabytes of memory. PC 100, I believe. We have a little switch block there for I think things like voltage and maybe front side bus and things like that. 3 16-bit ISA slots, 1 AGP slot, I'm not sure the speed, and 1, 2, 3, 4 PCI. So pretty good for like a small compact motherboard. And of course we have our CPU Super Socket 7 right here. Again, I don't remember the CPU. I guess what we should do now is just hook it up and just fire it up. Okay, and now for the moment of truth. I've got the camera pointed at the monitor here. I've had it hooked up. So I'm going to hit power, and let's see what we're rocking on this thing. And we'll see what we're running here. Hopefully it should boot up. I got power. Hear it spinning. Ah, there we go. I was worried for a moment. And it's a K6-2 at 500 megahertz, 256 megabytes of memory. I don't know if it will go to an OS. Okay, it's got Windows 98 on it. All right, so at least it's running. I'm gonna have to. Obviously, I'm probably gonna go with Windows 98, but I'm probably gonna reinstall it. A couple things off the bat: the hard drive activity light works, but the power LED doesn't. So I got to see what's going on there. It's noisy. I don't know if the camera can pick it up because it doesn't have the greatest mic in it. No, well, that's not good. But it is pretty noisy. Even I'm usually pretty tolerant of that, but even for me, it's a little bit too noisy. So I might have to go about looking at some of the fans in there. Second, I did say I was keeping the CPU, but I'm not really 100% sure on that. I am not going with any sort of very specific like build for this as far as like period correct or certain errors, but I am going for like 98. I want to try to get as close to like a 98 system. The K6-2 500 came out in, I think, August of 1999. So I'd actually be closer to my 1998 sort of goal year if I went with one of the early K6-3s. I believe the K6-3 333 and maybe the 400 or the 450 came out actually in February of 99, which is barely into 1999. So it's actually closer to our 1998 date than what's in there right now. A little bit slower CPU, but you know, the more cache on board might offset that a little bit. I don't know. I'll poke around. If I have an early K6-3, I might swap that out. I mean, just for the heck of it. I'm not really care what's faster actually for this build. I'm not real concerned with like building a fast machine. Just something interesting. So yeah, I might throw in the an early K6-3. So I don't know, that might be interesting with the L3, or well, the cache, the 2 megabytes on the board will become L3 cache because the K6 in there, and then we have it. And then I'm thinking about putting in a Intel i70 board, which pulls memory from the main board. So it'll be interesting. It might be interesting. So yeah, I'm going to poke around for an early K6-3. If I find one, I might just put that in there. So I'll get back to you when this thing gets straightened out a little bit more. And just to mix things up, I'm going to use a card I've never really used before, and it's an interesting card. This is Intel's first discrete graphics chip, graphics card in this case. This is the Intel 740, or the i740. I think it came out around 1998. It wasn't really a big success for Intel, but it is an interesting card. I have tried to use these before previously in some of my personal setups, and I found this card to be really picky about the motherboard. I've had a lot of issues getting the drivers and these cards to even like install correctly. So we'll see if I have any luck with the build today. So since I'm going for like a 98-ish build on this, this might be something different and interesting to put in there. Please keep in mind, this video isn't really like a formal review of this card. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there if you want like a good review of this chip and these Intel i740s, but we're just going to try to put this guy in our machine for fun here, and I'm just going to see how it goes. So it is kind of a quasi-review, I guess, of the card, but nothing super in-depth on this thing. Why, other than being Intel's first discrete graphics chip, why is the i740 interesting? That is how it handles memory. So we have the onboard memory. I believe on this card it is 8 megabytes, which isn't a whole lot for a card in 1998. But the interesting thing about these cards is they have the ability to take memory. I don't have any installed now, but they can actually utilize the system memory. So through the AGP bus, they can actually access and utilize the memory on board, which usually is much higher. So why would you want to do that? Well, memory on the card, although faster, was usually quite expensive. So if you could access the potentially very large amounts of memory on the motherboard, that could be very useful. One of the advantages apparently of this card is it can run games in higher resolutions, where some other cards from the era might be able to, because they're more limited to the memory on the card, whereas I said this can access memory on the board, letting it play games in higher resolution. But overall performance, especially compared to cards that started coming out in 98 and 99, like the TNT, this thing was quite lackluster. Although I have heard image quality is pretty good on this card overall. Two things to keep in mind. One, there are PCI versions of this card, which is interesting, because this was really meant to be an AGP card. It was really meant to grab that memory from the system through the AGP bus. There's actually PCI versions of this card, and interestingly, I don't have one. I've never used one, but I've heard they actually perform quite well. In some cases, better than the AGP version. I think they might have more memory on the card. It's weird. I've never been able to test one or come across one, but that's just what I've heard. Another thing to look out for, if you do want to use an Intel i740 in your retro setup, try to get one like this, a little bit later one that has the 8 megabytes of memory on the card. There are earlier ones like this guy here, and this one looks really cool. It's got like the cool fan and little metal thing around here holding it on. I really like the look of this card. It almost looks like a prototype in a way. I don't know. It looks kind of rough, but it looks really cool. It has Intel real big on the side. The problem with these cards is, as you can see, this thing only is rocking 4 megabytes of memory for like a 1998 card. That is pitiful. Theoretically, it shouldn't really matter because, again, it should be grabbing all the memory it needs off the main system board. So I would definitely avoid these older cards that might look kind of cool, but it's just, even for how it's supposed to work, the memory on the actual card itself is just way too low for it to be very useful. Okay, so this is the chip I've decided to put in there. I don't know if you can see it with the light, but this is an AMD K63 333 megahertz. So this is a bit of a oddball chip. Some of the information on this chip is murky. I think on CPU World they couldn't confirm if this was actually like a mobile chip or a desktop chip. On the Wikipedia list of AMD chips released, there's a question mark next to the date. Its contemporaries, or it's like its brothers and sisters, the K63 400 and 450 have a date of February 99, but this one has little question marks next to it. And I believe on CPU World it says AMD didn't even release a data sheet for this CPU. So this is a little bit of a weird one. So even though this has more L2 cache, or it has the 256 L2 cache on it compared to the AMD K6 2 that's currently in this machine, this is quite a bit slower. I believe this can actually run on a 66 megahertz bus or a 95 megahertz bus. We're going to run it on a 95 megahertz bus at 3.5 multiplier, I believe. But I'm guessing the K6 II, even though this has the L2 cache advantage, the K6 II that I have in there right now at 500 megahertz, it's probably faster just because it's a big difference in megahertz speed. But I don't care. Again, I'm not going for like speed. I just think this is an interesting chip to put in there. I'm guessing it will work. So we'll see. All right. So here is the K6 II 500. I've replaced it with the K6 333. Let me turn off this light here, and let's see if it works. All right. And waiting on that green. There we go. That's a good sign. And let's see what it says. Yep. K6. Yep. Detects a K6 333. So, actually, when setting this thing up with there's a switch on the board. There's like a switch box, and in the manual, I just set it for the K6 II 333. And so it's good that it's actually just detecting that it's a K6 III at 333 megahertz. So everything should be good. So that's good. So from here, I got to pick out like a sound card. Then I'm going to reinstall. I'm pretty sure I'm going to go with Windows 98. Then we'll just mess around with the thing and see how it performs. So on the matter of replacing that sound card, the Creative branded audio PCI card, which I really despise those cards, had a few options. You know, we're loosely going for 98, 97, 99, that time period, late 90s, we can say. Cool kids with this kind of setup, they would have been, especially like 98, if you had the resources, if you really want to go all out, you'd probably be using some kind of PCI card, like the Sound Blaster Live came out in 98. So that would have been the hot new sound card, EAX, decent DOS compatibility, stuff like that. I think the Ariel Vortex cards also came out in 98, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But you know, this board, although I'm not focusing on DOS with this machine, this does have ISA slots, so we've got them. We may as well use them. I kind of want to have decent, you know, DOS compatibility with this. Not that a Sound Blaster Live actually has decent DOS compatibility, but we've got the ISA slots, so we're going to go all in on with the ISA sound cards. So a lot of options there as well. A lot of late cards. I could go out with like an AUS64 Gold. Or I could go with something a little bit more pedestrian, I suppose. I was looking at like some of the just Yamaha cards with the Yamaha chip on it. In the end, it's a little bit boring maybe of a pick, but I'm just going to go with standard ISA AUS64, not non-gold, just a regular AUS64. I don't believe this card has a real, genuine FM chip on it, OPL chip, I'm not sure. But you know, it's decent. We've got like the AUS64 32 support is decent. Good, you know, Sound Blaster 16 backwards compatibility. I think the FM on this is decent, even though I don't see like a genuine OPL chip on here. It's like a decent all-around card. We got MIDI. It's okay. So we're not going with any kind of ultimate build here. So I think this is a decent pick for a sound card. So this is what we're going to go with. Alright, I think we're basically pretty good at this point. I got the power LED working and everything is more or less working. I put in a CD-ROM drive. Well, CD-ROM DVD. Yes, I know this is... I don't know the year on this, but it seems much later than what would be in this machine. CD drives were around in 1998. That's all I need for this. I'm not doing a real stuffy, specific period build on this. We're just roughly 98-ish. I have a little hard drive caddy here for the hard drive. It's that Maxtor hard drive. It's like 20 gigs or something. I think it was what was in this machine when I got it. You know, we're pretty good. We have got the 256 memory. I've got the K63 weird-ish sort of 333 megahertz in there. Everything, it seems to be posting. I haven't installed the OS yet because I'm like debating it in my head what I want to go with. Like the obvious choice would be like Windows 98 SE. Especially since we're not being sticklers about, you know, only OSs that came out in 98 or something, or 97. That would just be the easiest choice and the choice that makes sense. When you make as many vintage computers, you get sick of the mainstream OSs that you use a lot. You get sick of XP, you get sick of 98 or 98 SE, you get sick of DOS 6.22. They're great. I mean, you use them a lot because they're good operating systems and they really define the era. A lot of games just work with them fine, but you get tired of using them over and over. And I'm tempted to go with 95 for this, or like 95 Windows 95 Plus or something kind of weird. And being that it's AT, I don't know. I don't know. The AT thing is really like, I look at this and I know it's Super Socket 7 and there's AGP and stuff, but like it has a real like like Windows 95 feel to it. Kind of like there's AT slot 1 boards too, which are even they're not weird, but it's just something I'm not used to seeing. I get the the cause for them. You know, you still had a lot of people probably in the late 90s with AT cases, so they want an upgrade path. So, you know, you make super socket boards or slot 1 boards that are in the AT form factor, and then people don't have to buy a new case. But it's just, I don't come across them very often, so it throws me off. I look at this and I see like mid to early 90s, and I want to do like Windows 95, but just for practicality, I am probably just going to go with 98 SE. We've got the i740. I haven't had much luck in actually installing these cards and actually getting them to run in the past, but maybe we'll have better luck this time. Got the AW64 in there. I think I have the mouse hooked up. There are little connectors there. So it looks like we're pretty ready to go. Let me turn this light off and let's just do a preliminary power on here. So looks like we're good. It's posting, it's seeing everything. So yeah, definitely the next step is going to be putting the OS on here, which is probably going to be 98 SE, just because that is the easiest for me to do. Okay, so we're more or less up and running. I did go with Windows 98 SE. We've got the OS on there. We have all the drivers and chipset drivers and stuff installed. That little tag on the case about USB and Windows 98, it wasn't joking. I have not been able to get USB to work at all. I mean, I haven't tried hooking a mouse or a keyboard up, but as far as like mass storage and connecting a USB drive, it's just not there. I mean, it says, you know, the USB drivers are installed, it says the USB hub, but you connect anything, any kind of USB flash drive on here and nothing happens. So I went back to reference that nice little sticker message someone put on this case, and I realized it said they won't work under Windows 98 SE with an AMD CPU, which I am using, and a VIA USB host controller. So obviously the USB on the board is VIA, I believe, and it's a VIA chipset, and the one I tried that I had the most luck with, but it was locking up, was a VIA controller card. And I did try an NEC card, but it wasn't getting detected, and there were some issues with it, and I thought maybe it was just that card. So I did install, well, we can't really see it well, but I did install another NEC card, and this is like an NEC, it's like a FireWire USB controller, and it actually detected it, installed the drivers, and it's actually working fine. So I do now have USB on this machine. The board is just, I guess, really picky about certain configurations. So I was having problems with the built-in IDE controller. It's just giving me a lot of errors and issues when I'm trying to install the OS. I did circumvent that issue. I did install an ATA133 PCI IDE controller. Again, we're not being sticklers with period correctness for this build, so it's all fine. The other thing I have to point out is if the images of the capture is a little bit dark, again, that's an issue with my goofy capture method, so I apologize in advance for that. Alright, so start out here, let's just take a quick look at Everest. I really like using this program just to check out the specs and make sure things are running properly for the most part. A lot of options here. So our video adapter, the Intel i740, we're running at AGP times 2, 8 megabytes. So just confirming what we know about the card running there, just some extra information. Also, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, I'm using the latest drivers. In the past I've had issues with the card, but in this system it installed just fine, no issues. There's all our information about the CPU, our AMD K63 running at 333 megahertz. That means that L2 cache on the motherboard, the 2 megabytes, is now L3 cache. So yeah, there's all our information on that. Take a good look. Look at the memory. Confirming things, taking a look at the chipset. And we're going to take a look at some benchmarks here and then some gameplay. All the benchmarks and gameplay, unless noted otherwise, I'm running at 800 by 600 in 16-bit color. So keep that in mind. Again, this isn't like a serious in-depth view of this video card or the motherboard. This is just a fun kind of look at this kind of weird setup I put together with some uncommon parts, or at least parts that aren't generally used by retro gamers. I don't think this is generally a setup that you would see being put together. Anyways, Final Reality is one of those things that did not work with the i740. I know it's not just this build, because this has happened to me on other builds before too. It runs, but it does not detect the 3D accelerator. So if you look at rendering platform, it's just direct 3D software mode. It will not run in the hardware acceleration. It just doesn't see the card for whatever reason. And it's not just this particular i740 card. I've just never got it to work. I've used different cards. So let's take a look at some benchmarks. Alright, so that was a look at the synthetic benchmarks. We got 3D Mark 99 and 2000. So without further ado, let's just take a look at some gameplay. If a game allowed like FPS counter, I put that up there, but otherwise just take a look, make your own conclusions. Again, these are all 800 by 600 16-bit colors, so enjoy.
Solaris.
So if we look at Unreal, the first game, it does have a built-in FPS counter, but if you look at it during this gameplay here, it's really high. I think it was like in the hundreds at some point, and I know, I can tell with my eyeballs just looking at the image, it is not running at like 100 plus FPS, but overall the game ran pretty acceptably. I felt it was quite playable. At least until enemies showed up, then it really started to chug. I tried to run the original Unreal Tournament as well. Unfortunately, it wouldn't run. I got some kind of pre-allocated texture error. This might have been a fixable error. I didn't put any effort into trying to correct this issue. I just wanted to see what would just run without issue. And Unreal Tournament did not just run without issue. And yes, at the beginning it actually does say that it doesn't recommend direct 3D mode if you're running the i740, but I probably could run it in software mode, but then that defeats the purpose of running it in this test.
Recon 4, fall back to Drop Point Renegade for immediate evac. We're picking up fallen reinforcements approaching from the southeast. Get your team clear ASAP. Over.
All right, let's move. The whole area is going to be slag in about 2 minutes.
They can't wait long, so be on time for once in your life.
Be nice.
This is Avenging Angel on final approach. Drop point secure, over. Roger, fire for effect, over. All right, Recon 4, dust off in 30. Out.
Don't leave without us.
Hey, give me a red claw.
One red claw coming up. He said his navcom went down?
Yeah, he tells me he was drifting in space though.
You hear me?
Loud and clear. Awaiting orders. Awaiting orders. Moving out. Awaiting orders. Moving out. Loud and clear. Yes, sir. Got it. Infantry reporting. Loud and clear. I'm taking heavy fire. You got it. Infantry reporting. Loud and clear. Loud and clear. Loud and clear.
Unit lost. Hardison under attack.
Infantry reporting.
Austin, you are over the U.S. Multiple bandits arriving from all directions. Clear to engage.
Austin, passing waypoint 1. Austin
Wow,
2,
what a
/1
blast.
flogger.
Austin 2, engage, defensive.
Austin 2, Fox 2.
Over G.
Austin 1, Fox 2.
Over G. Over G.
Splash that MiG.
Austin 2, Splash 1 flogger.
Austin 2, engage, defensive.
Over G.
Austin, Vector 030 for 30, bandit, closing.
Over G.
And just for fun, here's Return to Castle Wolfenstein. I'm trying to run this at 640 by 480, 16-bit color depth. It didn't really run all that well, but I guess it did run.
Ah, there you are. Shackle that one to the wall and take the other one off the table. Sergeant, when I give you an order, I expect an acknowledgement. Dr. Z, is everything all right down here? Is someone there?
We've got to destroy this sector's communications array by taking out its 3 core generators. Once the array is down, you'll be able to penetrate the lab safely. Your first target is ahead 0.9 clicks. You'll have 2 more after that, so stay alert. We'll be tracking your progress from here.
And that's kind of a look at this random AT beige case I picked up at a swap meet. I really was just expecting a generic socket 7 machine when I picked this up, and I opened it up and I saw an AGP slot and I was immediately kind of surprised. And then when I dug into it more and I seen the 2 full megabytes of L2 cache, like I said, I've only had one other board in all of my vintage computer collecting that had the 2 megabytes L2 cache, and it was a FIC board. I used it pretty exclusively. I still have that board around. It's having issues, but besides the point, I was surprised to see that, especially since I believe the cache on this is actually rated faster. So Yeah, overall, I think it performed well. I think that that weird 333 megahertz K63 performed admirably. I was also surprised at the Intel i740. That is a card I haven't really played with much in the past at all. And, you know, it's kind of has a lackluster reputation. I was expecting more glitches. I was expecting, like, poorer performance. And although it wasn't stellar performance, it was better than I expected on this machine. And I didn't see... there were like one benchmark that didn't work and one game that refused to run. But the games that ran, I didn't see any glitches. The image quality was good. It was a better card than I thought it would be. This whole system in general performed better than I thought it would. And remember, I was running at what I felt was kind of like the norm for like 1998-ish, give or take. It was 800 by 600. You can lower the details in these games. You can lower the resolution to what, like 640 by 480, and you'll get a little bit better frame rate. I don't know if it's going to make a world of difference. The couple games I tested, it did help. Didn't necessarily make a world of difference, but you can do that if you want to, you know, up your frame rates a little bit. So again, didn't give the smoothest frame rates, but most of the games were playable on it. They were at least playable. So I mean, when we started getting to the later games, obviously it started struggling a bit. But like I said, even running the '98 era games, generally it performed fairly well. Not silky smooth, but better than I expected. I expected this thing to choke a lot more. I expected it to just not run games very well, especially when I first got it running and I ran CPU-Z and I got the blue screen. That's never a good thing. Stability overall was pretty good on this machine. I really didn't have any like crashes or lockups. So overall it was a pretty decent build. Now I have a question for you guys. Do you want to see more of this machine? Do you want to see us push it a little bit more? Like how much can we push this Super Socket 7 AT motherboard? I do have a K6 2 Plus, which I believe this motherboard should support. And I also have I do have a spare K6 3 Plus. So maybe we could put that in here, get it running at 550 megahertz, or maybe even we can get it running at 600 stably. I think we can. So we could try that out. We could put in a much faster GPU, I'm thinking. Maybe something from the early 2000s. I don't know, maybe a GeForce 2. See how it performs there. But I don't know. We've done similar builds like this on that channel. So let me know in the comments. Is that something you want to see? Do you want to see this thing pushed a little bit further? Do you have any ideas of what we could do with this machine for a video card or anything like that to kind of like get it running overpowered, or some ideas? Let's just see. If you guys want to see this thing pushed a little further, let me know. But just as like a weird, fun oddity with a kind of a weird graphics card that most people don't really use, and kind of a weird K6 as far as like speed setting goes, it was it was a fun build. I wanted to keep trying games on it. I wanted to be like, oh, let's try another game. Let's try another game. But the video would have been way too long. I just packed it with like 100 different games playing on it. But it's a fun little system, functional, not the most powerful, but functional. And it was interesting playing with the Intel i740. If you want more in-depth, like actual videos or reviews on that card, they are out there. So just put in like Intel i740 card review. There are videos out there that do a lot better job just focusing on that, like a review of the card itself. Again, this was just like a general view of this computer, but let me know what you thought, and thank you for watching. Leave a comment below, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you again for watching.